Thunderstone Quest is the third edition of our hit dungeon diving deck builder, Thunderstone. At its heart, Thunderstone is a game about building a party of heroes, going to a dungeon, defeating monsters, and collecting their treasure. You begin the game with a deck of basic cards. You'll draw a hand of 6 cards to start. Each player also has a meeple to represent where they are. Just like in old Thunderstone games, there is a village and a dungeon crawling with monsters. Now, there are a few things you can do in the village. Using the gold on the cards in your hand, you can buy village cards to add to your deck. You'll find several kinds of cards in the village to buff up your heroes, including spells, weapons, and items. You can also add brave heroes to your deck by hiring them with your gold. And you can also use the experience points you earn from killing monsters to level up the heroes already in your deck. Cards purchased in the village go into your discard pile and will be shuffled back into your deck when you draw your last card. New to Thunderstone Quest, you can also use your gold to purchase tokens. Tokens give players single-use abilities for use on the later turn, such as healing wounds or extra gold. You can purchase up to 1 card and 1 token in the village each turn. In Thunderstone, players want to upgrade their decks as quickly as possible, and Thunderstone Quest provides a way to accelerate that process. Just outside the village is the wilderness, infested by giant rats. Only a minor irritation compared to the real danger in the dungeon. But in the early game, players can defeat a giant rat to immediately level up a lowly adventurer into a salty first-level hero. Here's how an early turn might work out. You start by drawing 6 cards. This hand has 7 gold, so we can buy another short sword for our brave heroes to use against the monsters, and a light token, which will provide light to move within the dungeon on a later turn. We can also use the ability on the lantern to move to the wilderness. We have enough strength to kill a rat, and that lets us upgrade one of our adventurers. Eventually, you'll have to venture into the dungeon. You may notice that the dungeon is very different from past versions of Thunderstone. We wanted the dungeon to feel more thematic and more like actual dungeon crawling. So with Thunderstone Quest, you start at the entrance, then draw your cards and play your actions to see where you can go. There are 6 rooms in the dungeon, and the deeper you go, the harder the challenge, and the bigger the reward. Some rooms even buff up the monsters inside of them. To go deeper into the dungeon, you always need light. In past versions of Thunderstone, light was always tough to use and difficult to keep track of. In Thunderstone Quest, it's very clear and very easy. Rooms have a light value, and you can only move into a room if you have enough light to access it. Eventually, the game has to end. When 4 of the 6 keys shuffled into the monster decks are revealed, the Guardian appears, and each player gets 1 chance to take him down. All of this is just an overview of the basics. There are lots of upgrades in the game that we'll talk about in the future. Treasure, cursed items, monsters with special abilities, and of course the cards that give this edition its name, quests and side quests, which give each player a unique path to victory. Thunderstone Quest is the fastest, most thematic, most exciting Thunderstone yet. And so far we've only scratched the surface of how great it can be.
We make fun